got a minute?
Oh, what? Whoa, Gwen, how did she? How did you get? How have you been?
It's a long story. Is this the room you grew up in?
It is, but my dorm room is very adult.
Right. No, of course.
Hey,
Are these your drawings?
what? No,
Oh,
no.
they're good. I missed you too.
Okay, so what are you doing here? I mean, I thought I'd never see you again.
Want to get out of here?
I'm grounded.
Bummer.
What?
Is Spider-Man grounded?
I mean, I
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 trailer video. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is now the confirmed title. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here, and I'll explain what's going on with the whole part 1 of it all, like part 1 of 2. They're doing like an Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War situation, where it's basically 2 movies, but it's kind of like one big story spread out. We're doing a ticket giveaway for Spider-Man No Way Home. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from this trailer in the comments. So I'll just start at the beginning of the trailer and work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs as we go along. But the whole idea is that you see Miles Morales going across the Spider-Verse, across the multiverse. It's called the Spider-Verse, but it's a different way of looking at the multiverse, so it's the same basic concept. In the first movie, it was all these different versions of Spider-Man from different universes coming to Miles Morales' universe, Ultimate Spider-Man's universe, but this time it's Miles Morales going to different universes himself. But they opened the trailer the same way they did the opening credits for the first movie, with that record scratch moment where the beat stops really quickly and you kind of expect to hear someone say, "Here we go, one last time, again."
All right, let's do this one last time.
But the opening scene is basically that ending scene from the first movie where Miles Morales is sitting in his bed listening to the Post Malone song and then looking up at the ceiling as another portal opens up and you hear Spider-Gwen's voice, Haley Steinfeld. If you guys didn't realize, it was Haley Steinfeld that played Spider-Gwen, and she's also playing Kate Bishop in the live-action Hawkeye series right now. So she's kind of blowing it up all over the Marvel Universe right now. But this trailer basically confirms a lot of our theories about what was going on during that scene. The Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse post-credit scene confirmed that a version of Spider-Man 2099 in the future, in the year 2099, played by Oscar Isaac no less, he's going to be playing Moon Knight in the live-action MCU series next year, had created the WebWare wristwatches from the comics that allows them to go across the Spider-Verse at will, like they can do it when they want to now. So the theory was that the Spider-Gwen had gotten one of those wristwatches from Spider-Man 2099. So it just sounds like she got help from Spider-Man 2099 in opening the portal to Miles Morales' universe again. But she's basically surprising him thinking that he would never see her again, like they had that awkward, funny moment, because they were kind of teasing a romance between the two of those characters a little bit, and we'll see a little more of that continue through these next 2 movies. They say this is part 1, so I'm assuming that there's a 2-part story, but they'll probably keep doing these sequels as long as people keep paying to go see the movies, so hopefully they'll do many more than 2. The Strange Tales Spider-Man comic book that's floating around him with his version of Spider-Man on the cover is meant to represent the plot of the first movie, but it's like saying that there's an in-universe comic book that's basically a Spider-Verse storyline comic book, like Marvel Comics' real-life line of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse comics. But in this context, it's just meant to be a clever wink about the plot of the first movie. The other big difference is that when she portals into his universe, the portals themselves look a little bit different. So I think they just tuned those up. Like they're just saying that, oh, these are different because of the way that Spider-Man 2099 engineered his technology, allowing him to open portals at will. If you look around his bedroom, you can just see a lot of his childhood toys. It's just meant to look exactly like it looked during the first movie. She teases him a little bit, looks at some of his drawings. Remember, he was drawing during the beginning of the first movie, but they kind of put that on hold because he was so busy becoming Spider-Man and learning the ropes and what was going on with the Kingpin's plot trying to stop him. So he's just gone back to drawing in the time since the first movie ended. But you have to remember that no time has passed between that ending scene and what's happening right here in this scene here. So it's almost like he goes back to his house, then sits down, gets grounded, within like a couple moments, she shows up in another portal. Like very little time has passed since Kingpin was arrested. Then she teases him again and then gets him to come out and have some fun with her around the city. But I think the idea is that she's going to tell him about what's going on with Spider-Man 2099 in this larger threat that's going to cause him to have to go across different universes. That's one of the few things that they don't really tell you about this trailer. Like, why is it that he does need to go across universes? Is this going to be an Inheritor's storyline? Is it going to be something from the Spider-Verse comics? But then they show you him traveling through Spider-Man 2099's portals through a bunch of different universes. Notice the very cosmic-looking webbing connecting different universes in the background here. That's just a visualization of the Spider-Verse. It's a certain way of visualizing the connections between universes that only certain people can see that way. Madam Web being one of those characters. So maybe we will see a version of Madam Web at some point during this too, but it sounds like Spider-Man 2099 is driving a lot of this plot during the trailer here. If it wasn't clear, the first world that he travels to, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is Indian or Hindu writing in the background here. Somebody can confirm here. Like this is a world where the entire world is much more influenced by Hindi culture. Then Spider-Man 2099 comes out of another one of his portals, catches him, and takes him to the next universe. And if you couldn't tell from the writing in the background, there's a mixture of Spanish and English writing. It's meant to be Nueva York. The designation on his wristwatch says Universe 928. That's the universe where Spider-Man 2099 comes from. So he's taking Miles Morales to his original universe because there's probably some threat in his universe. We knew they would include him somehow, but I wasn't expecting him to be like the main character. But don't worry, they did tease that Peter B. Parker would be coming back too. So most of the characters from the first movie will be coming back. That was what that first teaser trailer was for, where they cycled with all the different Spider-Man logos, all the different versions of Spider-Man that they would feature during the movie. Then the logo at the end, if you couldn't tell, is Miles Morales' new logo that you see on his costume. So it's like a slightly more refined looking version of the logo that he spray painted on during the first movie. I think this is just meant to imply that he gets a slight costume upgrade because with enough wear and tear, the spray paint probably wouldn't last. So it's probably just a slight costume upgrade where the logo just gets polished a little bit more. But it's basically his version of the logo. All these glitches when they reveal the title, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, is just them showing you some of those logos, just in a slightly different way than they did during the first teaser trailer. I'm not totally sure why they decided to do it as a part one. Maybe the story that they were doing just seemed so big, like an Avengers Infinity War type of story, that they wanted to break it into two movies. So what they might do between the release of part one and part two is they might do the Avengers Endgame thing where instead of calling it Infinity War Part 2, they called it Avengers Endgame, changing the title. So instead of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 2, they might just call Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 3 some other subtitle. But what I'm hoping that they try with this movie that they didn't wind up doing in the first movie is they said they actually planned, because they did so many crazy versions of Spider-Man, they'd actually talked about doing legit live-action inserts with versions of Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
At one point I was supposed to be in it. Yeah, there was going to be another Peter Parker, like, there was like a scene in a train station or something, and like, it was going to be like an Easter egg. I was going to walk through the background and say like, hey kid, or something, and never happened. I'm heartbroken. But I'm just excited for us to introduce Miles into our own universe one day. I think that's going to be really cool.
Should be wild.
Yeah.
They talked about bringing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back, and now that we have Spider-Man No Way Home happening, and they really are kind of doing a version of live-action Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with 3 different versions of Spider-Man in a bunch of their Sinister Six villains from each universe, hopefully Sony will double down and say, okay, you know, this time we're going to let you do that. We'll get Tom Holland to have a cameo scene in some way, or MCU Spider-Man in some way, and we'll get Tobey Maguire, we'll get Andrew Garfield to do cameos. They said the reason why they didn't do that during the first movie is because Sony, at the time, remember this is 2018 when the movie dropped, they said that it was too soon to bring Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back and do Tom Holland crossover with the live-action movies. Like, at that time, they thought that it was too weird to do something like that. Now in 2021, we're in a hold my beer situation with Spider-Man No Way Home, with all the craziness that they're doing in live action. Clearly, they are totally okay with doing crazy stuff like that now. The only other version of Spider-Man that they've absolutely confirmed, like legit on their Twitter, was Spider-Man, the Japanese Spider-Man from his TV show with his giant mech. So we'll see a version of him during the movie. I did a couple separate videos for the teaser where they teased all the other versions of Spider-Man, the brand new ones with the different logos. So I'll add links for that down in the description below if you haven't seen those.
Do you know a Peter Parker who's Spider-Man?
Yes.
Is that him?
No.
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 Is that him?
Yes.
It's been a hot minute since they teased anything for this movie, so I think they're just trying to capitalize on all the hype around Spider-Man No Way Home. They're also doing an animated Disney Plus Spider-Man TV show with Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man, but that's not going to happen for a couple more years. That's called Spider-Man Freshman Year. I did a whole separate video about that. I believe they also dropped a brand new Morbius trailer, so I'll do a video for that tomorrow too. There's just a lot of Spider-Man stuff happening right now, so it's all really cool. Don't worry, I will do videos for everything. If you spotted any cool Easter eggs in this trailer that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. But there'll be another trailer for this sometime early next year or by next summer at least. While you wait for everything, click here for my brand new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer video, and click here for all those other Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 teaser trailer videos. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.